right, for a lot of you who maybe watch the show, I hope you do, you know we're really not opinion around any of that stuff. We're just sort of balls and strikes, follow the facts. So when I constantly hear out of the White House that it inherited 9% inflation, I know the fact is that it did not inherit 9% inflation. It was about 1.4%. But again and again, I hear the president say it was, well, 9%. And I know that that's not right. So I try to relay that, get that across. And when I have, let's say, you know, a top White House economic advisor named Jared Bernstein on to talk about it, I want to get to the bottom of it. Sometimes it goes okay. In this case, well, not okay. Take a look.
Never will this president blow off the struggles that families like the one he grew up in are going through. Instead, he'll take action to help them through cutting costs, prescription drug, clean energy, housing, child care, junk fees, actively working to lower costs in those areas. So not at all dismissive of America's concerns in that regard, Neil.
All right, well, some might disagree with you on that, but I do want to get behind why the president keeps claiming this. This is what talking about inflation. Take a look.
We have dramatically reduced inflation from 9% down to close to 3%. We're in a situation where we're better situated than we were when we took office.
It was 9% when I came to office, 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned.
I think inflation has gone slightly up. It was at 9% when I came in, and it's now down around 3%.
Jared, why does he keep saying that? You're his top you're the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Do you ever whisper in his ear, Mr. President, just to be technical about it, it wasn't 9% when you assumed office, it was 1.4%. It got as high as 9% in 2022. You brought it down from that, but it was never, ever, ever 9% when you came into office. So why does he keep saying it?
Well, first of all, let me point out that in that very quote you played, the president talked about how concerned he was for households struggling with prices that he consistently characterizes as too high.
That's not what I asked you.
So
why does he keep misrepresenting this?
He's making the point that the factors that caused inflation to climb to 9% were in place when he took office.
No, that's not what he said. He said it was at 9%. It would eventually get to 9% a little over a year after that. But the fact of the matter is it wasn't 9%. So if I can't trust him quoting data in real time, why should I believe what he's talking about now?
So the annual growth in core inflation in the second quarter of 21 was, in fact, about 9%. And his point about inflation down 60% off its peak is very much the case. So
no, it wasn't. It was not at that. So you're almost as bad as he is. Why can't you just say it was high? It got as high as 9%. You'd be accurate in saying that. And we have now brought it down, and we're struggling in around the 3% area. But it's better than it was. But instead, to hang it on his predecessor, that you inherited something that was through the roof when we were in the middle of COVID, it just seems to the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're lying. You're just lying.
Well, hold on. I hear you. The president was making the point that I think is unequivocally true. The factors that took inflation to 9% were in place when he took office.
That is not what he said, Jared. And you're a very smart guy with this stuff. You could just whisper, and he's a good friend of yours, obviously, thinks the world of you. Many others do as well. You could have just told him, Chief, I got to tell you, Mr. President, whatever you say, you might even, in fact, call him Joe. That's how close you are. And say, sir, it was not 9%. Stop it with the 9%, because the more you say that, the more people don't believe what you're saying.
Look, I think what the American people care most about is the fact that inflation...
The American people care about truth, Jared.
Hold on, Neil. Neil, this only works if you let me talk, okay?
You haven't answered my question. I've asked it 5 times, five ways.
The president was making the point that the factors that caused inflation were in place when he took office, and that's unequivocally true.
Right.
I take your point, and we can have we can go on all day back and forth on this. I think what matters today is, are we making progress on lowering costs as well as lowering inflation? You know, they're not the same thing. Lowering both inflation and costs on behalf of the American people. I think we saw a great CPI report yesterday in that regard, but that's just one data point.
I give up. It's not my point. It's not my fact. It's just a fact. So from here on out, America, I want you to know that I'm 175 pounds, not an ounce overweight. In fact, everywhere I go, people say, "Why, you're an Adonis. You're looking so terrific." All right, we got Kenny Polcari on this, a Slatestone wealth chief market strategist. Kenny, my only point in saying that, not beyond the fact that it's true, I am 175 pounds, at least my left arm is. But I guess when you keep perpetuating or saying something that's demonstrably false, easily provable, you know, all of a sudden becomes fact. But I just cannot believe that. What do you think?
I don't know how it can become fact when, to your point, it's clearly not fact. Anyone who was alive in January of 21 knows what the inflation rate was. I guess I'm as shocked as you that Jared Bernstein or anyone else in the administration doesn't just stand up and say, you know what, that is categorically false. It was not 9.1% when you came into office. And whether or not the seeds were planted there, to your point, that's not what he said. He said he inherited it. That's what it was when he took office, but he's brought it down. In fact, if you remember, when it was 1.4% in the spring of 21, when it went up, when that 1 month, I think it was April, when it went from 1.4 to 3.1 in one move, it busted right up and through 2%. That's when Jay Powell should have acted, because that was the narrative. The minute that inflation went through 2%, he was going to start to pull back on rates. In fact, he never did. He told us it was transitory. Remember, he was also fighting for his job because he was going to be reappointed in January of 2022. So he didn't want to disrupt the apple cart. And Biden didn't want to disrupt the apple cart with such low interest rates. So the idea that it was 9% when he took office is completely false.
All right. Please don't bore me with facts, though, Kenny. I really don't have time for it here. Let me ask you something else. I don't know what the facts are behind the Dow crossing 40,000 as it finally did yesterday. I do know it's been on a tear. You've been way ahead of this curve talking about this tear. Donald Trump took a bow for this, as did Joe Biden, who tweeted out that this is great news for Americans. It's a reflection of what he's doing. But Donald Trump had this to say about it. This is from Donald Trump.
The only reason, by the way, the stock market goes up is that I'm leading in all the polls. If I weren't leading, the stock market would be way down. But I'm leading, and based on the fact that I'm leading, the stock market is up. And if I didn't win, you would have a crash like 1929.
Oh, God.
All right, I don't know about that one. That looks like a stretch to me. But having said that, I mean, what is behind this Dow surge? What do you think?
What is behind it, and I hate to say it, it's neither one of them, it's neither party, right? They each want to take credit when they can, and they don't want to take credit, certainly, when it goes the other way. But what's behind it is the idea that we're getting declining inflation. So yes, that's one idea. The idea that we're gonna get declining interest rates and and stimulate the economy. I don't think any of those at the moment are true. Yes, the inflation has come down from 9, but it's stuck here at 3.4%, and likely going higher, because once all that infrastructure money really starts to hit the tape, once they start to spend it this year, it's going to cause inflation to surge. And I think Jay Powell's in a very tough spot, and he knows it. But the reason the market is rallied is the anticipation of all that happening. When the country realizes, or when investors realize that rates are not coming down, I think then we'll have a pullback. Not big, but a pullback.
All righty. You call your own balls and strikes, young man, and we appreciate that, sticking to just the facts. Kenny Polcari, one of the best I know covering this market, so I appreciate him taking time on a Saturday.